So when the engine's cold, it's going to need more fuel and less air, like starting a fire. It needs lots of fuel to start. An example would be using lighter fluid or gasoline. You throw it on the fire, you ignite it, boom, that starts the fire. So the throttle is closed and it has a small orifice to bring the small amount of air and the fuel to ignite, then continue to run rich until it's up to temperature. Once it's up to temperature, now you can meter that fuel and air more efficiently. Now you got a better atmosphere, I guess, for the air-fuel mixture. When you first start it, it's going to be almost closed because it doesn't want very much air. And then once it warms up, this will drop down, or you kick the throttle and then release it off of its tab here, and then you've got it wide open. Your choke is wide open, but that does not mean that your throttle is open in the bottom, right? Because your gas pedal is connected to the throttle opens up, and that's going to introduce more air and fuel into the engine. Again, at our picture here, the choke is controlling atmosphere coming in, and the throttle is basically kind of controlling the vacuum. So the vacuum from the intake valve and from the combustion chamber is pulling down, and this is basically like your governor. It's throttling that, right? So it's saying gimme, 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 and then this is going to monitor how much you're going to give it, right? Wide open, right? You're giving it all it'll take, if you can keep feeding it fuel and air, it'll just keep going and going, right? So you need something to control that. That's why you got the throttle. The throttle is controlling, the running of the engine. You open it up, it's going to go faster. You shut it, you close it, it's going to reduce the amount of fuel and air going in, therefore reducing your RPM. And how does that work? Well, so you've got your choke that's open to atmosphere, so it's basically wide open now, and you can have as much air coming in as this will allow. And then you've got your venturi here, so this is like a jet booster. When you open this throttle, that vacuum is pulling more, and then it's going to pull that atmospheric air through here. As it does that, gas gets introduced, and then it gets mixed in with the air, and then it comes into the intake and down into your combustion chamber. So then right now with the closed throttle plate, you're going to have maximum vacuum. You open it up, you're going to lose vacuum. So if you remember the old pressure gauges, or there used to be gauges with the vehicles, and that's basically what it was vacuum gauge, right? So when your vehicle is cruising down the highway and you've just got this throttle plate, open just a little bit as you're cruising down the highway, you got pretty good vacuum because this isn't open very much. It's just open enough to give enough gas and fuel to keep that thing running nice. And then all of a sudden you want to go past somebody on the highway, where you kick open the throttle, this goes wide open, dumps more gas, dumps more air, makes the engine run faster. Now you're passing somebody on the highway, but your economy just goes right down because your vacuum gauge is telling you that there's no vacuum, because when you've opened this up, you're basically equalizing the pressures in effect on both sides of this throttle plate, right? High vacuum on the bottom, atmospheric pressure on the top, or zero vacuum on the top, right? So when you open this, that's what causes the pressure differential, causes it to go down into the engine. And then the more you open this, then the more the vacuum's going to drop, because you're feeding it what it wants. In the case of this carburetor here, basically all the action is happening right here. And I have these little orange dots, and those are basically representing that this is air. So the air is going through these ports here. And here's our little mechanism that goes in there. So we've got our outside venturi, and then we've got our inside venturi. The inside venturi is for the gas. The gas squirts out that hole, and then so this is, if you think about it as a jet booster, first you got the large jet booster getting the air in, and then you've got another shot, and that's more air, a smaller area, and a venturi gonna really throw that air down there and mix up with that gas. And that's basically to mix up the gas and the air really well, and as it goes down to the engine. So when we look on this one here, like these two screws that go into there, they've got a hole all the way through. So the screw goes in there to hold this on, but basically there's a hole from the top to the bottom there. So this is your air. Now, if we go back to our picture, that is the position where that air is coming above the venturi. You see how this is above the venturi? So that's where that is. That air is coming in above the venturi, and then in our idle, as we were talking before, it's gonna come out that slot down there. So that's how the air is coming in. Now, them two little holes, that is where you have your needle screws here. This is where you're going to adjust your fuel entry for the idle circuit. So basically this needle screw, you adjust how much gas is going to be coming out them holes right there. And later on, when you put this on the engine and you got it running, this is later on where you're going to hook up a vacuum gauge, and then you're going to set this to the highest vacuum. A note about that, the reason why you're doing that is, again, you have your vacuum below the throttle plate, right? So that is in manifold vacuum. So you want to hook it up to the manifold, and that's where you're going to read your vacuum, and you're trying to achieve maximum vacuum. So you're complementing the fuel delivery for that maximum vacuum. That's that setting there.